Welcome to the How to Podcast series. My name is Dave. Happy to have you here. Let's get into the conversation today around podcasting. Let's help you start your show and grow your podcast. Very welcome back to the How to Podcast series, where we talk to amazing podcasters from around the world. And this makes me happy because when I talk about podcasting with my friends and family, they kind of roll their eyes and go, "You again with the podcast?" And they're like, "We don't get it. We're not into podcasting." But when I get somebody on my screen who is into podcasting, I'm in my happy place because now I get to talk to Shannon and talk about her
Thanks for
show
checking out the
and
video
does.
version of the How to
And,
Podcast
talk
series.
about
You can
podcasting
always
as well.
hear us
She's been
everywhere.
to the
howtopodcast.ca.
guest
Come check us out.
right?
I'd love to
We're gonna
talk
do
to you
this
soon.
together.
Thanks for being here.
Welcome to the show.
Yes. Thanks, Dave. So happy to be here to chat all things podcast with you.
Come on. All right. Yes. So you are the host of an amazing podcast that I love to listen to, Second Act Success Podcast. Everybody got to go to there, follow the show, subscribe to the show, listen to every episode, over 200 episodes. Congratulations.
Thank
You got a
you.
lot to go listen to and a new podcaster to fall in love with. Shannon is a
Yeah.
great host, has great guests. And if you're in that season of life where you're looking at the second act, like what is the next thing for you? This is the perfect podcast for you to fall in love with. So Shannon, glad to have you here on the show. This is really fun for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I can't wait to have you on to share your story
Come
of
on.
Second Act.
Come on. All right. Yeah, good stuff. Tell us a little bit about the show, Shannon. How did the show begin for you? Let's go back 200 episodes ago and episode
Yeah.
one, kind of like, whoa, kind of what was the spark to start the show?
Well, I had started my own second act, and I was in the midst of my second act. I left my career as a television producer to open my first business, which was a franchise. And I started having a lot of women, customers of mine, ask me how I made that transition. And so, in that those conversations, I said, okay, I'm going to start a coaching business and help women build businesses of their own and start their second act. And I decided to start the podcast right alongside with that new business of mine. And I called the podcast Second Act Success Podcast. And it's really, I wanted to share other examples of people who had changed from one job to another or changed and left a job to start a business, because I feel like when you hear other stories, it's more attainable for you. So, as a listener, you can hear that this person went from being a teacher to a jewelry maker, and you say, "Whoa, if she can do it, then I can do it too." And that's my goal of this podcast, to give those little seeds and ideas of inspiration to listeners to urge them to start a second act in their life.
It's amazing how we can take a podcast, an idea, and turn it into a platform that helps other people as well, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
like if I start my own little small jewelry business and my friends and family, neighbors know about it, but nobody else really knows, advertising this small business that I've created, this great idea, is really hard to do when you're first starting out. To come on your show and now get in front of your audience and talk about what you do. Now you've just expanded your audience just by being a guest on your podcast. So I like that you're using it as a foundation to help other people and a platform for other people to
Yeah.
connect and share their story. That's great.
Yeah, and so many of my guests too, which I'm sure your guests do, are as well, are open to having listeners reach out to them and have those conversations of like, can you tell me how you actually did this and how you made that transition? And I love that so many of my guests are open to that, because I think when you hear someone doing what you'd like to do, you want to have that conversation and really talk it through. And that's a nice aspect of the show as well.
How did you, let's use your own comment there back to you. How did you start your show? Like, how did you know how to do all this stuff and get the podcast up and running? Kind of, how did you figure it out?
I was a huge consumer of podcasts. I've been listening to podcasts forever. Podcasts are the whole reason I started my first business and started my second act, just feeling, getting those inspiring stories from podcasts I was listening to. But I didn't know how to do it, and get the systems in place and technology wise and all of that. So I took a course from Melissa Guller, who had how to start a business course. So I did that, and it was an excellent, excellent program. It walked you through exactly what to do, how to set up your systems, how to get the right equipment, all of that. So I did that, and really, I just got it out there. I made a logo, and I was, like I said earlier, building it alongside my business. So it really, and my business is Second Act Success Coaching. So it really was all branded together. And so I was figuring it out as I went. So I had the logo for my business and I took that logo and made it my podcast art. And then I just started reaching out to friends and family and saying, hey, you have a really cool story of transition and you opened a business. Can you come on the show? So my first like handful of guests are people that I knew. And then it just kind of spread on from there. People would say, oh, I know someone else. And I think my producing experience from working in the entertainment industry led me to be really comfortable interviewing because I had interviewed celebrities in my career for years.
Right.
So I think that aspect was easy to me. It was just the idea of how do I set it up, have it sound good, and then get it out there into the world that I had to learn through that course.
And I think the other one thing it might be hard to learn, but something you can learn over time is how to be a real representation of who you are on the microphone and on camera in front of people. When you see people on TV and movies, you think, wow, like they seem to do it so well and effortlessly. But there's sometimes you can hide who you really are and have a fake exterior. You shared a story with me on Living the Next Chapter about kind of who you've come across some pretty amazing people in Hollywood and acting in movies and TV. And some people are just genuine good human beings.
Mm.
And there was one you mentioned came in and talked to your team and shook hands
Yeah.
with everybody. And that story really resonated with me. I just think that's a good, I'll get you to share the story, but I think that's a good example of how we as podcasters can treat our guests, how we can treat our listeners, our community, just to be a good human.
Oh,
Can you kind of
yeah.
share that story for this audience? Because I thought it was really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I was producing an entertainment news show and Henry Winkler, the Fonz from Happy Days and a million other things,
Hey. Yeah.
yeah, came in and before he got to set, just went around and shook hands and introduced himself to the crew and the camera guys and the director and me and everyone backstage. And I just really took that in because he's someone that I grew up watching. So
Right.
yeah, just a genuine, wonderful person, and you're absolutely right. I think we can be that genuine person with our guests and try to help them as much as we can. Like you said, promoting what they're doing and getting, the social media clips of them and our conversations out there and just try to help not only educate and inspire the listeners, but really form that relationship with our guests as well.
One of the things we've been talking about here on the How to Podcast series recently is along the lines of Pat Flynn's new book, Lean Learning. And in
Mm,
his book, Lean Learning, he talks about just in time learning, in that you don't need to learn everything about something before you start. You just need to know enough to start. And I'm
mm,
like, well, that's interesting because I think of like just in time deliveries would be something like at a grocery store that has produce that comes into the store. They don't have enough produce for 5 years. They have enough produce until it expires, and then the next truck shows up. So it's just in time shipments, and they sell it, and there's a new batch comes in all the time. That's kind of how we should kind of address our learning cycle as well. Because what I'm finding with podcasters that I talk to is they want to learn everything about podcasting, like everything, soup to nut, everything, every
mhm.
possible scenario, like stuff they'll never use for 5 years, but they want to know it now. And they delay starting. There's no action. There's just learning. They have 45 gurus. They've been to 35 conferences. They've bought every program there is, but they've never turned the microphone on. And
Mm.
they have a story to tell, right? So, kind of your reaction to this, because I don't know how much you wanted to know before you started, and are you still learning today? I think that's kind of the one thing I think people don't understand about podcasting. We're
Yeah.
always learning in our roles. But can you talk a little bit about that kind of just-in-time learning and how important that would be from your perspective?
I love that idea of just in time learning. And I always say done is better than perfect too. And it's true. I feel like I wanted to know technically how to have it sound good and
Yeah,
get it up, on my RSS feed. I
right,
wanted to get the show out there and I knew I wanted to be consistent and do a weekly show. I wanted to stick with that. And I think that's what's helped me get in the top 2% of podcasts is being consistent for these last few years, getting
right.
over 200 episodes. But I'm learning the entire time because I was not perfect and I cringe to go back and listen to those early episodes. But it's the idea that I got it out there. And since then, things I've learned is It doesn't have to be an hour. Really, the shorter the better in a sense, because that's what the time is that listeners have. It's that drive to school or it's that drive to work. So I've shortened episodes. I've tried solo episodes, guest episodes. I've tried different produced intros. I've learned different things over the years to try and see what works. So it's always that A/B testing. And like you said, it's just getting it out there and getting the response from people, looking at the stats, and then just saying, really, what do I enjoy recording? What do I enjoy doing?
Yeah.
And honestly, I've turned everything, all of my episodes, into blog posts on my website. So that's another great way to have it live out there and reach people in a different way. I think that's important that I learned a few episodes in. And now, still, all these episodes in, I'm really looking at sponsors and how to do the sponsoring piece because the podcast for me is a way to serve others and help them and teach them how to create a business and start over. But I only make money through the podcast from getting clients. But I'd love to have sponsors
Hmm.
that really offer something in the business space that could help my listeners.
Right.
So I'm learning that now. I'm diving into what that would seem like and how I could attain that. So yeah, I agree. It's always learning, but just pressing record and getting that out there is the hardest part for most people.
What do you enjoy today more, solo episodes or the interview? Kind of where do you sit on that?
I love interviewing people. I love these conversations like we're having right now. So I enjoy that so much. But I know that some listeners, some listeners like hearing the stories and some just want the tactical, tangible advice. So I am mixing it up and I'm making my solo episodes like 10 to 15 minutes on this, one particular topic. But yeah, I enjoy the conversations. I'm such a people person and just having that dialogue and coming up with those nuggets because I'm learning from my guests as much as my listeners are. It's just nice to have those conversations and it's fun. And then form those relationships so we can continue to support each other and work together afterwards.
And I know this is 200 episodes ago for you, but I have people reach out to me. They're like, Dave, I want to do an interview show. Nobody knows who I am. I don't know how to find my first 10 interviews for my show for a brand new podcast because
Yeah.
I'm going to be asked, how many listeners do you have? Well, I've had the podcast for 5 days. I have no listeners, right?
Right.
And I'm trying to reach out to these people and have them on my show. Any tips for finding new guests on a new podcast when you don't have a listenership?
I think turn to your network, turn to friends and family. It just depends on your niche, and like who you're serving. But for me, finding people who had those second act stories has been really incredible because there are so many people who have reinvented themselves, and that's a story that I want to share. And they're all so different. So for me, it's been easier to find guests over the years. But I think for someone new, think about who you want to serve, who your listener is, who you know in your network. Go onto LinkedIn or social media and find people and just say, hey, can we record for 30 minutes? And I will promote you, and this will go on my blog, on my podcast. And then there's resources like we were talking about earlier, Podmatch.
Hmm.
Podmatch is incredible. I've met so many incredible people. And all you have to do there is make your profile, put up your podcast art, and people will pitch you. It's like a dating site for podcasters. So you can pitch yourself, you can pitch people and say, hey, come on my show. And people that are there already want to guest. So I think that's a really great place, don't you think, to just
Oh, yeah.
start? It's such a great resource.
And I didn't even realize it when I signed up with Podmatch. I originally just signed up as a host, and it was
Hmm.
like less than $10 a month. And
Yeah.
like I would easily spend $10 on promoting my show in other places. But here
Yeah.
I'm promoting my show to podcasters and guests.
Yes.
So I'm getting people listening to my show just by being on the platform and showing people my podcast for less than $10 a month. I'm like, well, that's a good thing. But then
Yeah.
all of a sudden I start seeing these things come through to me as payments to me from Podmatch. I'm like, what is going on here? But because I had certain people on my show who were on
Yeah.
Podmatch, they were rewarding me by giving me back some money. And I'm like, I didn't even, I don't know how I missed that when I signed up,
Yeah.
Shannon, but I was thrilled. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, they're going to actually let me earn some money back by using the platform. I'm like, who does this? Anyways, it's
It's
great,
incredible.
right?
And I think another good thing is that those podcasters are on there. They most likely have a podcast. So they're going to want to share it. So that's
Yeah,
just someone else that will share your podcast on their social media or with their email list. So it's helping to promote your podcast in the early stages as well.
yeah. And we get reviews. I get
Yes,
to
yes.
review as a guest when I get to review the host that had me on their show, and the guest on my show can review me. And those
Mhm.
reviews I can pull out, throw them on my website, my social media. Those are actual reviews. And what do we all want, Shannon? We want people to leave a review for our show, right?
Yes.
So being on a platform that encourages reviews, sharing them back and forth, another win as well. It's
Yeah.
just there's so many things. And they have we were chatting before we hit record. They have every quarter, they have like a pod match, podcasting made simple live. And I got to speak at one. It was great. I loved it. Got to meet a lot of great people. But you get to sit in and listen to other podcasters. You have a
Yeah.
guest track and a host track. So you can kind of pick what you want to interest you and go listen to other people who are in the space like you and I are and just learn. It's a great way to connect with people as well. So lots of
Mhm.
opportunities. I know we feel like it's a pod match episode in the
I
moment
know.
here, but it's just when you find a tool that works, it's worth talking about, right?
Oh, yeah. And there's probably others out there too, but that's the one that, is my go-to for
Yeah.
sure.
So for now, then, like, how are guests finding you? How are you finding guests? What's working now that you're 200 episodes in?
Yeah, it's a lot of referrals. It's a lot of people who know me through, my business and through the podcast that say, "Oh, I know this person who has a really great story." And they'll send that person over to me. And if their story is great, then I'll say, "Sure, here's my link. Sign up to record with me." Um, and when I do guests on other people's podcasts and we have that relationship and they have a story to share, I'll say, "Come on mine too." So I can find guests very, very easily. Like right now, I'm pretty much booked up through the end of the year
Yeah,
with interviews for my podcast, which means I'll have episodes way into 2026. So it's just kind of saying yes to people when you meet them or when the opportunity comes your way
yeah,
and saying, "Great, I might not be able to interview you for a few months and it might not go up for 6 months, but if you're up for it, let's do it."
right.
So always looking for that opportunity and letting people know that you're open to referrals too.
Do you ever get any pushback from guests when they find out there's a waiting list, like a waiting time for their episode to go live? I've had it on some of my shows. They're like, wait, you mean it's not going to be live today? Like,
Yeah.
like, do you ever get that kind of ask from your guests?
I have a couple of times, and I usually let them know when we're recording that this won't go up for another 3 months or so. So they know in case they have a new launch coming up. And I always say, if there's something new that you're promoting, let me know. I'll let you know when the episode's coming, like a week before the episode releases. You can let me know if there's anything you're promoting, and I'll put it in the show notes. So, but I do. I mean, and honestly, if there's something specific or something that they want to promote earlier and they ask, I'll try to move it up earlier. But sometimes when you're lucky enough to batch like that, I like to batch record so that I have episodes that I can take my time editing and get up. It just makes our life as podcasters
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah.
So hopefully people are just happy to promote themselves anytime.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
funny part, I batch record for my podcast as well. And
Yeah.
there's people who will reach out to me, Shannon, they're like, oh, I loved what you talked about this week. And I'm like, man, I recorded that episode 2 months ago. I don't
Right.
even remember what I said. Right. And you're like, I got to go back and
Exactly.
listen. But yeah, I just love that we can do that when you have time.
Yeah.
Block off time in your calendar. You're already set up to record. You don't have to set up and tear down all the time. Record a bunch of episodes as much as you can, put them
Yeah.
out there, post date them for the future, and then you can take a break, go play with your kids, go for a swim in the pool, and
Yeah.
your podcast just chugs along in the background, right? It's really kind of great.
Yeah, you get those systems in place. I think
Yeah.
once those systems are in place, then it really does become this well-oiled machine. It doesn't have to be where, oh, I started a podcast and every single week I have to record and edit and record and edit and post. It's just find what works for you.
I go into the Facebook groups and I see,
Mm,
help, my guest canceled. My episode goes live tonight. I need somebody now. And I'm like,
yeah.
and there's nothing about what the show is about. It could be a gardening show. It could be
Yeah.
a movie review show. I have no idea what your show is, but they need a guest. And I'm
I
like,
know.
I feel bad for you in that moment. I'm like, that's terrible when your guest cancels, but maybe recording a little bit further in advance might be helpful. I don't know.
I
Kind
think
of
so.
that's when I see that I'm like, oh, ow. right?
Yeah.
Mm,
Or be prepared to do a solo episode. I mean, think about it. We
exactly.
can turn the mic on and literally talk about any topic that relates to the podcast or the business or something happened that week. Because as podcasters, our listeners start to learn and feel like they're friends of ours. And that's what we want, right? We want that relationship. So even if you just say, you know what, I'm having a bad week. This is what happened. I'm just going to talk about it for 5, 10 minutes. That's still content you're putting out there. And chances are that listener is going to be able to relate to something and just appreciate that you are a real person behind the mic.
Right. Any heartwarming stories that came into you from a listener or a guest or something that came in like an email or a voice message or something, and you're like, you weren't expecting it, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm on the right path. Like somebody left me some kind of feedback about my show. Anything
Yeah.
come to mind?
Well, I love just reading reviews, and when new ones pop up, it's very exciting. But there was one call, like I do free strategy calls with potential clients, and this woman came on and she was giddy and she was like, I'm a little nervous because I've been listening to you for well over a year now. And I thought it was very awkward at first for me because I was like, oh, why are you nervous to talk to me? But how cool is that? Or it was very cool to me
Yeah.
that she felt nervous talking to me because she was a fan and was a listener. And but it was also very cool because she felt like she knew me and then
Yeah.
wanted to work with me. So it we started off our working together relationship like we already knew each other, and it
Yeah.
was really cool to have that happen. That is something that I'll always remember. It hasn't happened again, but I still remember that moment. It was really fun.
It's
It made
kind
me
of
realize that I'm putting some good out in the world,
right.
and people want to connect on a further level, from that.
It's kind of your own Henry Winkler moment in
It
reverse,
is.
right? Here's Henry
It
Winkler
was.
walking in. You're like, oh my gosh. And now here's to
Yeah.
somebody on your screen going, oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
So
kind of neat.
funny. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
I think that's one thing podcasters might not anticipate when they first start a show is that people are going to treat you like a companion in life.
Mm.
Like they're going to take you with them.
Yeah.
And the fact that you show up on a consistent basis, whatever that is for you, they build you into their calendar and they look
Mhm.
forward to hearing from you.
Right.
And I share this with some people in the past, Shannon. I had one person reach out to my show and I thought it was going to be one of those heartwarming moments. And what the email basically said, hi Dave, I listened to the How to Podcast series, but I don't listen to your show for the content. And I'm like, and you just tilted your head like I did. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a minute. I put a lot of work into this show. And they said, I'm never going to start a podcast, like ever. I'm not interested in podcasting myself, but I love your voice and I love hearing you on a regular basis. And there's times where I just
Oh,
need to hear you talk. And you could talk about anything. I listen to anything you say. But thank you for creating this show. And I'm like, wait a minute. So it's more than just content because everything I
yeah.
hear in all these rooms and from stages is content, content, content. But what about companionship, companionship,
Yeah.
companionship, right? I don't hear
Yeah.
that very often. And to see that email come in as proof that people will build you into their lives, like that's
Yeah.
another whole level, right?
Yeah. That just
Right.
gave me chills,
Right.
Dave, to
I
think
know.
about that. Yeah.
Right.
And you do have that very comforting, warm voice. So I can see that person just saying, look, oh, I'm hanging out with a friend as I drive to work today.
Right.
And let's hear but why doesn't he want to start a podcast? You have to
I don't
convince
know.
him.
I'm like, I gotta convince him. I feel like I won and lost at the exact same time, right? I'm like,
Yes.
dang,
Yes.
right?
Yep. But that
But
is
yeah,
very cool. That's a
thanks,
huge compliment to you.
right? And that's
Mhm.
one like for me, I encourage all podcasters when I help them start up their show. I want you to go into your email service, whatever you're using, create a brand new folder and just call it your happy folder or something.
Mm.
And every time, and be very diligent with this, anytime you get feedback from anybody, hey Shannon, I love being on your show. What a great interview. Those emails, you read them and you delete them or you do something with them, but put
Yeah.
those into that happy folder. And those days when you're just not feeling it, go in the happy folder, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and just start reading. Go
Mhm.
back to the beginning and go, oh, I remember when this person was on my show. I remember that interview. I remember that message from a listener, right? And
Right.
just refill your tank, right?
Uh,
I think that's really important for us to do
that
that. So,
is.
so I always say, like, dig the well before you're thirsty, right? do this thing, and be diligent about every time you hear from somebody.
Yeah.
Put a copy of that into that folder and just keep it. You never know when
Mhm.
you're going to need it next. So, and I do
Yeah,
that.
that's great
People
advice.
come, people send messages, and again, they don't come as often as we want, but only a small portion of our audience will ever reach out to us
Right.
because everybody assumes everybody else is doing it. So why would they care about what I have to say, right?
It's so
But we
true.
don't hear from people as often as we
No.
wish, right? So as you listen to Shannon's show, Second Act Success, you got to go and leave her some messages. I know she'd love to hear from you as well.
It's so funny that you bring this up because I wrote a book recently and I've realized how important reviews are for the
Right.
book.
Yeah.
And so as an avid reader, I now go and I leave reviews for books that I read because I realize it's important to me. And it's the same thing with podcasts. I try to leave a review every time we hang up, I'm guesting on a show. I ask people who are on my show to please because it is so important to us to get that feedback because as a whether you're a podcaster, an author, any kind of solopreneur, you're doing it solo. You're by yourself. So you don't really know how your content is resonating. And those reviews going into that happy folder, like means so much.
Mhm.
So yeah, absolutely. I'm leaving you a review for both of the podcasts I've guested on right after this, if I haven't
Yay!
already.
Awesome. And one of the things I gently push back on podcasters who come to me who are kind of complaining that they're not getting reviews. They're not
Mhm.
getting feedback. They're not getting, so nobody's using my buy me a coffee link. Like there's all these things. They're like, why is it not working? My
Yeah.
gentle pushback and loving nudge to them is, when was the last time you've done that for somebody else?
Yeah.
And you get this stare like, oh yeah. Well, if you are expecting it and you would like to see more of that, I think we need to put that out into the
Yeah.
world as well. So one of the things I do when I work with a new podcaster is I get them set up with SpeakPipe, which is a way to get voice messages, right?
Yeah.
SpeakPipe is great and it's free for like 90 seconds or something. So you don't have to
Mhm.
pay for it, which is great for a new podcaster. But I get them to set it up and then I say, send me your link once you set it up, because it's causing them to act now, go beyond
Yeah.
thinking to action. So when they send me the link, I said, I just want to be your first voice message. I want you to see that it works, right? And
Yeah.
see how it works. And I want to be the first person to leave you a message. That's my goal. So set it up and let me know when it's ready. If I don't hear from them from a week, I email them back. I'm like, hey, waiting for that SpeakPipe link. When can I get
Yeah.
this? Right. And they're like,
Yeah.
"Arr." So they do it. Eventually they do it. And I get to be their first link or first message. And then another one I get them to do is their buy me a coffee, which I mentioned earlier, which is just a great way to for people to give to the show. And
Yeah.
it's a way for people to show their engagement with the show. And they're like, well, I don't want to be salesy and I don't want to have this. Well, I'm just telling you, sometimes people just want to say thank you. They might
Yeah.
not leave you a message, but they will send you a $5 donation and
Right.
it'll be fine for them. So I'm like,
Yeah.
set up your speak pipe and set up your buy me a coffee. Send me the links. I want to be your first donation and I want to be your first voice message. Right.
Mm.
And I want you to do that. And then I want you to do this for other people. So as you come across other people who have these mechanisms in place for feedback or support, I want you to use them and be
Mhm.
an active user as well. So that's my encouragement to anybody that's kind of complaining that they're not getting feedback, is to look in the mirror and go, are you a great example of what you want in this world yourself? Are you
Right.
actually doing the thing? Because I think as we do that and we put good things in the world, I think good things just somehow find their way back to us. I think that's kind of
I
how it
do
works.
too.
Right.
It's that karma. It
Right.
really is. And sometimes it takes you realizing, wow, that review or that message made me feel so good. I want to do that for someone else.
Right.
So that's great advice that you give your clients. I love
Yeah.
that.
What my one of the things I struggle with, Shannon, with my shows is I do a lot of shows
You
and I
do.
talk to a lot of people, is the post guest relationship. After the episode goes live, you've sent the assets, here's the links, here's the things, here's a Instagram thing for you to post. Like 3 months later with your
Mhm.
guest, do you have anything in place where you maintain a relationship with your guest 3 months, 6 months, a year later? Like how do you just stay in their world after the episode has gone live and you've moved on to the next thing?
That's a really good question. I like to connect as soon as we record on all the socials so that I can follow and like and post and stay connected, especially on LinkedIn. And then, think about, okay, a few months later, usually every 6 months, I'll stop and I'll look and I'll try to repurpose content. And I have one person, now that I think about it, who was on my podcast. It had to have been over 2 years ago. And I want to say once a quarter, she reposts that one or two reel or like thing that I sent her. She reposts to her LinkedIn
Nice.
and she tags me. And I think, wow, that is really great because it's smart to help promote her business,
Mhm.
but it reminds me to share that once again. And so it's caused me to try to do that a couple of times a year, to go back and repost things, because people find us at different stages. So people who are finding my show now might not go back to episode 1, but there might be a really impactful conversation there. Yeah. So I
Right.
think that's my way that I've started, because of this one guest of mine, to go back, repost, retag, and start that conversation again. I don't do it as often as I should, but I love that you're bringing that up because now it's on the forefront of my mind to do
Right.
that more often.
Yeah. So I'm primarily an audio podcast from the start. I'm adding in video here and there. It's a lot of work to do this
Yeah.
and try to do it in a good way. Um, but what I am doing is pulling clips, even from episodes. Like this show's got 500 episodes. So I'm going back to like episode 10, you know,
Mhm.
and the person I check to see if they're still podcasting and everything's still active. And then if they are, and then I bring it out and I repost it again. And it's just this kind of this hit for them. They're like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this interview. Like it was like
Yeah.
3 years ago. And I've moved on. I've written 5 new books. I got 3 new podcasts. I've got my whole life is different. But what a great reminder
Yeah.
of that episode. And, reconnects us in the moment right away. It's like it
Mhm.
reinforces that bond.
Oh,
So that's
yeah.
one of the things I try to do is go back in my old catalog and resurface that. Because you're right. People will come to the show. You're in the over 200 now. They're going to show up like 205, your episode
Right.
205. They have never listened to any of your other episodes. They're going to continue from 205 forward.
Yeah.
They don't know about all these other great people that have been on your show.
No,
So I have a
that's
little
so
trick that
true.
I've been trying and playing with.
Ooh, tell me.
Now, I don't hear anybody talking about this. No, I don't know if I'm breaking any rules, but there's no rules in podcasting.
There's no rules.
So
We
what I
make our own.
do is I go into my old episodes. So
Mhm.
again, so Living the Next Chapter, 600 episodes in 3 years. So
Mhm.
I go way back to like the early 2-digit episodes, like episode 13. And I go
Yeah.
grab episode 13. I look at when I posted it. I grab the date. When was the launch date for that episode? And I just put it in the show notes of that episode. So don't forget. Okay. So
Right.
the first thing, because once I do this move, I won't know what the date was. I'll forget. So I just grab
Okay.
the date, I drop it in the show notes, and it's there at the bottom, just at the bottom. Original published date, and here's the date. So there, I have that. So from my
Okay.
memory, because I'm an old person. So then what I do is I go to the part where you can edit the date of the episode, and I move the episode, like episode 13, all the way up to episode 600, up into the 600s, and I put it
Okay.
for like yesterday's date, not tomorrow, because that'd be a new launch, and that's not a new
Right.
launch, but just yesterday. And I just move it up, and I leave it there for a few weeks. And then I put it right because I have the date in the show notes. And
Yeah.
then I just go back and I change the date to the original date and I shove it back down to where it was. Go grab another one, move it up to the top. And what's happening is episodes that didn't get a lot of love and attention might have been a bad episode title on my part. It might have been
Right.
the timeliness of when it was released, whatever. It gives it new life. And it gives my audience who come to my show for the first time and go, what's this? Episode 600, 599, 598, 13. What's this? And they hit play in that moment. And it gives that episode new life again. And it just brings it back, right? Do it for
That's
a month
incredible.
and then push it back down again. You're not breaking anything. You're just
No.
bringing it up to the more recent episodes and saying, hey, there's more here than just what you see on your screen, right?
I love that idea.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody say that,
No,
Dave,
no.
honestly.
So
It's
my,
a little bit
yeah,
of work for
yeah,
sure. It
yeah,
takes time, but now, so you're not changing the episode title or
nothing,
like the episode number,
nothing.
because I've done that only a handful of times in these 200 plus episodes. I've like taken one and written encore and given it a new number and just
Yeah,
put it up there again, like with a fresh, cold
yeah.
open or whatever. But that's interesting. I've never done that. That's
So
almost easier than putting it as an encore.
yeah, so I've had like one episode from 3 years ago. It had 35 listens. I'm like, we could do better than that. So I moved
Yeah.
it up and now it has 135 listens.
Wow.
Nobody, like when I look at my stats for that episode, it was
Yeah.
dead. Like there was no new listens to that
Right.
episode in the last year and a half. Nobody's
Ooh,
listened to it. I'm so
Dave, I have an
as soon as I put it
idea.
up. Yeah,
I think when you do that, that's a perfect opportunity for you to tag and share on social with
at
that
the same
guest,
time, right?
right? Why not?
See,
Because think about it, when you guest on a podcast, that's you promoting yourself, your work, whatever it is. So you're always going to want to do that. So what a great way if you like that woman I was saying, when she
yeah,
tags me, I'm like, of course I'm going to reshare it and repost it. And what a great idea. That's a great strategy. I'm
okay.
stealing from you.
Okay, it's kind of like reruns on TV back in the
Yeah.
day, right? Happy Days, you didn't just watch
Yeah.
the episode once, you'd watch it
No.
again and again and again, right? So
Yes.
I don't know, I'm just playing with it. Again, I don't hear people talking about this.
No,
And I
never.
think I think the caveat I would say for everybody, don't put it as a future date, because then that would
Yeah.
spark a new episode identification for your audience. And you're
Right.
really not a new episode. But
No.
without changing anything, you don't have to change it, just change the date. But make sure
Yeah.
you write down the original date so you can put it back to where it was in the list,
Yes.
because then it'll be still numerically in order if that's how you want your show. So
Yeah.
just make a note of that. And if you're
Right.
okay
And
with a misnumbered list of
yeah,
numbers, it's only temporary. So I know
it's only
people are like, "Oh
temporary.
no, it's got to be in order." But just play with it and see if it works. If it doesn't work, then don't do it. But I
Right.
just putting it out there going, "Have you thought of this?" Because I don't hear people talking.
Never. And I think of the other tip is to not listen to it because if it's from way early, you might not
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how
Oh
you
no.
produce that
Oh
episode.
no. Yeah.
I have a newer client, and she told me that she's very type A. She has to listen. She listens to my podcast on her way to work, and she had to start with episode one because that's how her brain works. And I said, no, don't do that, please. And she's like, nope, I love it. And
Nope.
she still says that she gets great value and she likes the stories. But yeah, that's how she has to listen.
Right.
That's how you are?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm type A. I don't know what type I am. My wife will have a list for you of all the different types that I am. But I do, when I find a podcast I love, I usually start in the most recent episodes because that's current and
Yeah.
but then I'm like, oh, I love Shannon's show. I'm going back to the beginning because where
Yeah.
I work where I'm allowed to listen to podcasts. So I get 40 hours of podcast listening in every week. Isn't that a
That's
dream?
amazing.
Right. So
Yeah.
I can go and binge your whole show and I can nail through them in a week
Wow.
or two and have everything caught up. So
That's great.
the thing I love is I get a deeper connection with you, right, by doing that. And one
Yeah.
of the things I get a lot, and I'm going to wrap up here, Shannon, is when people say, I want to grow my show. And I always push back and go gently again, what do you mean by grow? Because grow
Yeah.
means so many different things. Grow means numbers. The more people you reach, the more people you help. I get that. That's great. I'm totally with that. But what about growing the depth of your audience? So when
Mhm.
an audience comes to you and they start at episode 201, and they go
Yeah.
201, 203, 204, but they go back and listen to everything. They have a
Yeah.
deeper bond with you. Is that growth?
Yeah.
Say that's growth because you have a
I
deeper
think so.
connection, right? So that's another
Absolutely.
form of growth. So I'm always pushing back when somebody says, I want to grow my show. I'm like, grow how? Can
Yeah.
you define the word grow for me? Because then now we know which path to go on. So
Mhm.
anything you could do to bring back old content, reconnect with old guests, kind of show your audience that there's a great depth and value to 200 plus episodes for your podcast. If you
Yeah.
can encourage them to go back in time and listen, as maybe as sometimes where you kind of cringe at maybe some of the quality of what we did in the past, it also then makes you human in
Oh,
the sense that
yeah.
the audience is like, wait a minute, I'm seeing growth from Shannon as she works her show, right?
Mhm.
And I have more respect for you that you leave those episodes up and you show your path, you show your journey. I always want podcasters to build in public. Don't just
Yeah.
show the best. Don't just show your Instagram highlights. Show the
No.
dirty, messy parts as you got there, because that's what
Yeah.
people are going to relate with, right?
Mhm. Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
excellent.
great.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's coming up in your show in the future? I know you said you had a guest on who quit mid-meeting and said, I'm out of here. Like, those
She
are great
did.
stories. Come on.
Yeah, and I've been getting a lot of comments on social from a little clip that I posted because she quit mid meeting and said, I don't think I can be here anymore. She had a very
Wow.
toxic boss who was later let go, but she left and she took all of her experience and started a leadership coaching business where she is a people strategist and she helps other companies form really safe, nice company cultures which is what she didn't have with that toxic boss. So, yeah, really incredible. That's episode 205 that's out now.
Nice.
And then next week, I have an amazing woman who was a mechanical engineer and she decided to be a stay-at-home mom. And then she had a lot of health issues in her family and she researched and got everyone healthy and off meds. And now she is a transformational health coach. So she talks about how she took her engineering background and now she can help people live the second half of their lives in the healthiest that they can. So another
Excellent.
inspiring story.
All right, do your promo, Shannon, as we head towards the door. Second Act Success Podcast, everybody. Why should we listen? Who's it for? What can we expect? Come on, do your promo. Let's
Yep.
do this.
Yeah, Second Act Success Podcast. It's all about starting that second act, whatever it might be in your life. So we share stories from men and women who have pivoted, started over. I also have experts on to talk about different things like finances, franchising, branding. And then I do solo episodes on whatever I'm either dealing with or what my clients are dealing with. Like, so really tactical, like 5 things you must do before you launch your business. So we really dive into the meat and potatoes in those solo episodes as well. But yeah, you can go to it's really anywhere and it's on YouTube and it's secondactsuccess.co/podcast.
There you go. Like a true pro. Perfect. I love your show, Shannon. You keep me company at work. And
Oh,
like we
I
said
love your
earlier,
show.
right? It's just nice to know that when you get to meet the person that you admire, you had the Henry Winkler, I have Shannon Russell, right? You get to meet the people that you do life with. It's
Yeah,
really kind of really special. So
it
as a
is.
listener, you say you want more feedback. As a listener of your show, Shannon, I love
Yes.
how you do your interviews. I love the people you bring on your show. I love how you show up for us as a community. And I'm a big fan of your show. So
Mm,
as a listener
thank you.
of your show, thank you for
Thank
all
you.
that you do.
Oh, thank you so much, Dave. Thank you for all the advice and wisdom that you shared today, too. I'm excited to go implement some stuff on my show.
I'll be watching. I'll be watching and I'll be listening. Excellent,
Yes.
Shannon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for checking out the video version of the How to Podcast series. You can always hear us everywhere. Howtopodcast.ca. Come check us out. I'd love to talk to you soon. Thanks for being here.